A lot of people underwater in New Jersey. The warning sent early to residents there by Governor Murphy himself obviously helped with a lot of people making sure that they were prepared. He joins us now via the phone to give us an update on the damage to the Garden State. Governor, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Hey, good to have you with us. So what are you hearing so far as damage in the state of New Jersey? Is there one area that got hit harder than others that you're getting early reports of?
We got about 56,000 homes that are without power. Surprisingly, I guess not surprisingly, but a lot of them are on the shore, which tells you that the wind gusts were a lot higher on the shore. The flooding risk is largely up north in and around rivers like the Passaic River in particular, which we continue to be worried about. The models suggest that's not going to crest maybe until tomorrow. We've got NJ Transit's had some challenges, but they're back up largely running. We've got a bunch of road closures, several hundred accidents and assists on the highway over the past 18 hours. But knock on wood, thank God, I know of no deaths and no injuries. So a decent amount of flooding, a decent amount of power outages. It was a storm about as we expected. And thank God it's through the system. We get something else coming in a couple of days, and the worry there is that the cumulative effect will have a big impact here with the saturated ground in particular. So that's the quick summary of where we are.
Yeah, luckily with what we're reporting this morning, the volume of that rain that's coming this weekend will not be nearly as significant as what we did receive last night. Let me ask you this. You guys statewide issued a state of emergency pretty early on. Do you think that helped with people's preparation? I know from as far as our traffic reports, there weren't a lot of car accidents out there. As you said, there doesn't seem to be any reports of any deaths related to the storm.
I think it did, Chris. I mean, a state of emergency declaration really has two pieces of rationale. One is the substance of it, the latitude it gives you to manage a storm like this. The other one, though, which gets to your question, excuse me, is it's a signaling effect. It tells people, you know what, they're concerned enough about this storm that they're putting this declaration out. I'd better be concerned about it. And I've said this many times in my time in office. For whatever reason, it's harder to penetrate on water events. It's much easier when you say to folks it's going to snow a foot or it's going to be a tornado, as bad as that might be. People say, okay, I get it. If you say to them it's going to be heavy rain, you might have some flooding. For whatever reason, people say, you know what, I can deal with that. And we saw in the storm Ida, people pay with their lives by driving their car into a street they shouldn't have or staying in their home when they shouldn't have. So for all those reasons, I think this has a signaling impact, which I do think helped us.
It's amazing how when you say rainstorm, it just doesn't resonate. Maybe it's that Garden State toughness that that people demonstrate. Let me ask you this. We talked to Mayor Saya from Patterson a few moments ago. As you know, from 2 weeks ago when we had our last big rainstorm, places like Patterson, you had places like Wayne, in those areas with the Passaic River, they're just experiencing so much flooding, and it is so much more dramatic now and so much more devastating to these homeowners than it was a few years ago. And obviously mitigation needs to be done. I know New Jersey doesn't have all this extra money laying around, but what can be done? What do you tell these mayors that are looking for infrastructure changes to protect their constituents from all of this inundation with water?
Yeah, I mean, there's good news and then there's challenging news. The good news is we've worked well with these mayors and we've made some significant progress. The bad news is Mother Nature ain't going away. The storms are more frequent and more intense, and we are, not just in New Jersey, I'd say in America and in the world, but I know in New Jersey, we're chasing these storms as opposed to getting out ahead of them. Now, the Inflation Reduction Act that got signed by the president has an enormous amount of resiliency in that bill that we will implement ASAP in New Jersey. It'll take us years, but that's the key here. How do you become more resilient as opposed to wishing and hoping that the storms won't be as frequent and they won't be as intense? Tell that to somebody in Wayne or Little Falls or Patterson as you as you pointed out, and you can't say that with a straight face because it's not true. So you got to do everything you can to be more resilient. We've made a lot of good progress. We have a long, long way to go, particularly in the face of a fierce Mother Nature.
Exactly, and it's so tough with a state like New Jersey. You've got the seacoast that you have to worry about as well, and you say to yourself, okay, where do you put the priority? Not that anybody should be prioritized more than others, but Governor Murphy, thank you very much for taking the time. We got to let you go, and we appreciate your time with us here this morning.
Thanks for having me, Chris.